Both sides of the Mall decked in Union flags, Union Jacks, as they were for the Jubilee events. Of course, the flags will be flying on all government buildings until sunset, and that is to mark the Sovereign's official birthday in the traditional way. Leading the way is the Brigade Major, Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Speed, his second time in that role. It is his responsibility to check that everything is up to scratch for the birthday parade.
The Queen's Birthday Parade is our annual demonstration to the monarch of our commitment to her. And I think it's a celebration of the fact that she has dedicated herself both to the military and to the nation for 60 years. Sadly, this is my last year as the Brigade Major. I've been lucky enough to work with a really good team who work exceptionally hard to produce these events. So there's a tinge of sadness, but equally, I'm looking forward to being part of what will be a cracking parade.
Brigade Major followed by 4 troopers of the Blues and Royals. The regiment formed in 1969, a merger of 2 historic regiments, the Royal Dragoons and the Royal Horse Guards, or the Blues. The Blues and Royals with their dark blue tunics, their distinctive red plumes, and they're wearing the state helmet that was designed by Prince Albert back in 1842. And they're followed by the glorious sight, the glorious sound indeed of the mounted band of the Household Cavalry, whose appearance is always one of the very high points of the birthday parade. Band directed by Captain Jason Griffiths of the Blues and Royals. It's his first time in this role at Trooping the Colour. A glimpse for us there of the Royal Colonels. Duke of Cambridge, Colonel of the Irish Guards, will be celebrating his 30th birthday this month on the 21st of June. Prince of Wales, Colonel of the Welsh Guards, who today has been awarded the highest rank in all 3 military services by the Queen: Field Marshal, Admiral of the Fleet, Marshal of the Air Force. Duke of Kent of the Scots Guards, and the Princess Royal, Colonel of the Blues and Royals. The most remarkable fact is that Her Majesty's taking the salute at every single parade that's been held. There was one cancelled back in the 50s because of a rail strike, but every one that's been held since the accession 60 years ago. Chelsea pensioners represented by 10 in pensioners today, with a combined service of 211 years, led by the captain of Invalids, Major Philip Shannon, who used to be Director of Music of the Irish Guards. Onto the parade ground itself, and Mark Hargreaves preparing to produce his distinctive salute of the colour using the whip. The Royal Colonels saluting as they pass the colour, and the non-Royal Colonels, Lord Guthrie of Creditbank and Lieutenant General James Bucknell, will do likewise. So the Queen's Birthday Parade of 2012 is about to get underway, and at the stroke of 11 o'clock, as the bell chimes, the Queen will be stepping onto the saluting base. The Royal Standard will then be released, the field officer will give his command, and the national anthem, the Royal Salute, will be played. Field Officer and Brigade Waiting, Lieutenant Colonel Robin Sargent, prepares to order the Royal Salute.
Royal Salute! Peace hands! Arms!
So the Queen's first duty is to inspect her troops, and this is Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Barnwell's first birthday parade as Senior Director of Music, appointed in November of last year, just in time for the enormous challenges of 2012 with the Diamond Jubilee and the Olympic Games. And he will be conducting the Slave Chorus from Verdi's Nabucco, written in 1842. Music changes to West Country songs. It's an arrangement of traditional songs associated with the West Country, where the Coldstream Guards have a tradition of recruiting music arranged by the current Director of Music, Coldstream Guards, Major Darren Wolfendale. Queen travelling the glass coach, and she will be wearing the brooch of the regiment, trooping its colour, the brooch of the 1st Battalion Coldstream Guards. Ben, a lot is said about the very deep and meaningful relationship between these troops on parade today and Her Majesty. Can you shed a little more light on that?
Yes, Hugh, the Queen is the Colonel-in-Chief of the 7 regiments of the Household Division. That is the 5 regiments of Foot Guards and the 2 regiments of the Household Cavalry. She has had an enduring and very special relationship with the Foot Guards and Household Cavalry for many years. Of course, perhaps even stronger these days, and we witness 3 generations of the royal family on parade, wearing the uniform of the regiments of the Household Division, and of course not forgetting that both her grandsons are currently serving within the Guards. And so the Household Division as a whole takes an immense pride in being the personal bodyguards of Her Majesty the Queen, and we can witness every day at the royal palaces around the nation.
charge of all the soldiers on parade today is Major General George Norton, Major General commanding the Household Division, who commanded this parade himself in 2003 and 2004, and he's been sharing his thoughts on his new role.
My personal experience began in 1985 as a young officer fresh out of Sandhurst when I commanded a half company of streetliners. And then most recently, it saw me commanding the parade both in 2003 and 2004 as a commanding officer. Successful ceremonial calls for teamwork, attention to detail, discipline, and all of these qualities translate directly to the battlefield, albeit that the days of marching in straight lines on the battlefield are long gone.
So the parade stands by for one of the most popular military marches anywhere in the world, Les Huguenots, the tune by Meyerbeer, arranged by Dan Godfrey, first played, believe it or not, back in 1869. It's the big moment for the massed bands, will be led forward by the senior drum major, and it signals that the Queen's birthday parade is underway.
Bands! By the center! Slow! March!
Trombone of Sergeant Charlie Hancock of the Welsh Guards gives the signal to change direction.
centre! Quick! March!
Nothing like it for rousing and stirring music, and now these quick marches with an American flavour have been included at the personal request of Major General George Norton, recognising the close cooperation of British and US forces in Afghanistan over the past 11 years. The lone drummer, Lance Sergeant Paul Blakelock, breaks away, marching to a position to the right of the escort, facing the Horse Guards Arch. He's from Tyne and Wear. He's served in Northern Ireland, Iraq and Afghanistan. The drummers call a command for officers to take post, a signal that the next phase of the parade is about to start. And command of the escort is now passing from the captain to the subaltern, because in days gone by it was the subaltern's responsibility to oversee the trooping.
Remainder! Change! Arms! Standards! Ace! Escort! For the colour! And close order! Left! Just!
The subaltern, Captain Richard Crook, who commanded the Guards parachute platoon deployed to Afghanistan in 2010. So the escort now take up their dressing in close order before marching forward.
Escort for the colour! By the left! Quick march!
So the escort steps off. It's a big moment, it's a bold, proud moment for them on their way to escort the colour, marching to the British Grenadiers. A reminder that the right flank company of all battalions was traditionally a grenadier company. We mentioned the elite light infantry role, Ben. Define that for us.
Well, Hugh, over many years, the infantry role has traditionally been to close with the enemy in the closest sort of combat. But I think that this role has become increasingly sophisticated over many years. And units like the Coldstream Guards, who are currently in Afghanistan, are engaged in training, mentoring and supporting the Afghan forces. Also, passing the message to the population of Afghanistan that their purpose is there to provide a safe and secure future for the Afghan nationals. So they have to be flexible and adaptive and ready to operate in complex and demanding circumstances.
Escort for the colour! Halt! Escort for the colour! And open order! Right! Just! Mass bands! Will retire! About! Turn!
What a moment for Regimental Sergeant Major Daniel Morrell, who now prepares to take possession of the colour and protect it with his sword, ready to hand it over to the ensign so that the trooping can begin. So he's taken possession of the colour from Colour Sergeant Paul Baines, the holder of the Military Cross, now prepares to hand over possession to the ensign, Second Lieutenant Hugo Codrington.
Escort to the colour! Present! Arms! Escort to the colour! Slow! Arms!
So the ceremony of trooping the colour through the ranks is about to start. The Regimental Sergeant Major returns to the rear of the guard. Colour Sergeant does the same. The two sentries take up position in the ranks.
Escort to the colour! Change! Arms! Escort to the colour! By the centre! Slow! March!
So the escort advances in slow time. The band plays Escort to the Colour, arranged by Lieutenant Colonel Richard Ridings. And here we have the vivid illustration of the challenge facing the bands. They need to change direction. They have very little room for manoeuvre, so they execute what we call a spin wheel. It's easily the most baffling move of the entire parade. Lots of stepping sideways and backwards and forwards and lots of standing still. And then suddenly, as if by magic, they're all heading in a new direction.
Guards! Present! Arms!
So as the escort marches forward, every guardsman aware of the significance of what is about to happen. And for the ensign, of course, bearing the colour, no doubting the honour, for him and for his family.
The Codringtons are a bit of a military family, and there have been two former Coldstreamers who went all the way up to become regimental colonel, the last one leaving in 1945. And so to now be the sort of new guard, the next generation, to carry on this tradition, so I'm very proud to be a part of, and I hope will continue long after I'm gone too. Being the ensign on the Queen's Birthday Parade is something that only comes around once every 9 years for each Guards battalion. So to be in my shoes right now, I feel very fortunate. It's not at all something I ever expected I would be doing.
So no doubting the Coldstream credentials of the Codringtons, Ben.
Indeed, one of several families who have a very distinguished and long history within the household division.
As we look now at the formal process of trooping the colour, what does that signify?
Well, I think it's worth reflecting that these parades have very practical origins, and formally within the army date back to 1746, but before that, barons and chieftains used to use their flags and banners or colours as rallying points on the battlefield, and they used to troop these flags through the ranks of their soldiers to allow them to recognise them. So in the chaos of battle, the soldiers were able to rally at their points. So what we see today, although very much a ceremonial occasion, has deep historical and practical roots.
Guardsmen on parade, of course, today, highly decorated, including the accumulated service medal, which involves Iraq and Afghanistan, and some more medals being added today, Ben.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning, Hugh, that Company Sergeant Major Neil Lowry, who is Company Sergeant Major of F Company, has been awarded the Meritorious Service Medal today, as has Colour Sergeant David Rogers of the Irish Guards, who's on parade as a colour point marker, and he will shortly become the Queen's Piper. So a fantastic day for both of them.
And in this Diamond Jubilee year, 440,000 Diamond Jubilee medals have been issued to those in the armed forces and indeed other services too.
Halt! Escort! To the colour! Well advanced! Left! Turn! Escort! To the colour! Change! Earth! Escort to the colour! Reset! Earth! Guards! Low! Arms! Officers, take post! Quick march!
The officers ordered to take post, only the captains remain in front of the guards and the colour moves to the rear.
Numbers 1 to 5 guard will retire. About 10. At the halt. Right form. Quick march.
So the line opens up. Moment of relief too, probably for lots of the guardsmen. They've been standing still for well over an hour. But it's not a moment to relax because the march past is about to take place. And trying to keep that line of so many men straight is a precision task, really, which requires a lot of concentration and confidence and is the embodiment of teamwork.
Numbers 1 to 5 guard will advance. About 10. will march past in slow and quick time. By the left. Slow. March.
So the splendid march past begins with old Coldstream slow marches arranged by Trevor Sharp. We appreciate the precision and the colour. A moment, Ben, to reflect on how long the Guards have had to prepare this year for the parade.
We've always had a period that was described as spring drills in the past, where regiments could prepare for several months before the Queen's birthday parade. And over recent years, as the Army's become increasingly busy, this time has been limited, and none more so than this year, where the Coldstream Guards have been involved in so many different events before today. So they have had no time for spring drills. We were always warned of peaking early in our preparations for this parade. I think in my discussions with Rob, he certainly said there was no danger of them peaking early. He was hoping they would peak today, and looking at it so far, I think they're achieving that, Hugh.
Field Officer, Lieutenant Colonel Robin Sargent of the Coldstream Guards, and the Major of the parade, Major Mark Lewis of the Welsh Guards. First Battalion Coldstream Guards, who first trooped their colour for the Queen back in 1954. This is the 6th time they have been given the honour. The last time was 1999. Guardsman Dowler from Leicester is the right-hand mark of the escort at 6 feet 9 inches. He's one of the tallest guardsmen on parade today. Prime Minister and Samantha Cameron enjoying the parade with lots of other people in the stands. Colour moves to the front of the escort, taking position ready for the formal march past when the Queen will take salute. Timing critical here. They have to get off in perfect shape. This slow march deceptively easy. The experts say it is very testing, and on this gravel surface it's certainly problematic. Officer, Major of the parade, the Queen acknowledges to the famous tune of Figaro, the Coldstream Guards slow march. The ensign, Hugo Codrington, lowers the standard in the flourish. Decked with the laurel. Remember the Battle of Dettingen. The ensign raises the standard in the recover. majestic slow march of the Grenadier Guards, Scipio by Handel. Duke of Edinburgh, Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. The Irish Guard slow march, let Erin remember. Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, Colonel of the Irish Guards. The music changes, the slow march of the Scots Guards, the garb of Old Gaul. The adjutant of the parade, Captain Frederick Wells of the Coldstream Guards, salutes the Queen. Frederick Wells, a classmate of Prince William's at Eton. One of the few Old Etonians serving in the regiment at the moment, but does have a very rich tradition. Over 850 Coldstream officers have been Old Etonians. Field officer has ridden out and saluted the Queen to show that the slow march past is complete and the quick march is about to begin. Very proud day, of course, for everyone on parade, without exception, and for their friends and families. And Claire has been speaking to one proud mother a little earlier.
Yes, I'm with Susan Baines, whose son Paul is the colour sergeant today. What a day for you.
Yes, it's really special today to see him actually doing something like this instead of dangerous.
Now, he was awarded an MC a few years ago, wasn't he?
Yes, when he was in Afghan on a tour 2010 to 2011. But he really accepted, he wanted to make sure he accepted the award on behalf of all his battalion, the Coldstream Guards, because they all do such a special job, not just him.
Exactly, so sort of deflecting the personal attention.
Yes.
For you, Susan, you have a very personal link with the Queen.
Yes, I was born on Coronation Day and my mother named me Elizabeth after the Queen.
So you are Susan Elizabeth then?
Susan Elizabeth, yes.
Well, have a wonderful day, enjoy
Okay,
it.
thank you.
So we have the red feathers, the neutral quick march. I'm not sure how neutral that is, because clearly this march by Lieutenant Colonel John Mackenzie Rogan does really allude to the red plumes worn by the Coldstream Guards when you see them on parade. And the march past was last played on the parade in 1907. What's more apparent than anything today, Ben, I suppose, is the pride involved in this parade in putting on the best possible military display anywhere in the world.
That's absolutely right, Hugh. And I always like to reflect that what you're seeing today is a ceremonial occasion performed to the highest standard by battle-hardened soldiers. And looking at them today, pretty much the only part of the parade that has changed over the years is the weapons they're carrying. And these, of course, are the weapons that they will deploy with on their operations. They're carrying the bayonets they will deploy with, and they're hugely proud of the dual role. You can see the highest standards today reflected again in all they do overseas. And since operations began in Afghanistan and Iraq, the Household Division troops have deployed on multiple occasions and made a vast contribution. And the Coldstream Guards have continued to distinguish themselves on operations, both in Iraq, recently in Afghanistan with 2 tours in the last few years and another tour imminent next year. And of course, the Scots Guards will deploy in October 2013, as will one of the companies of the Irish Guards, and the Household Cavalry will do so as well.
Quick march of the Coldstream Guards, Milanolo by Ham. A real sense of dynamism and energy now. Queen acknowledging the colour at the rear of the escort this time, allowing it to fly freely. Unmistakable. Quick march of the Grenadiers, British Grenadiers, arranged by Jacob Cappy. St. Patrick's Day, quick march of the Irish Guards. Heel and Laddie, quick march for the Scots Guards. Into the neutral quick march, Children of the Regiment by Julius Vucic. Moment for the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Robin Sargent, to take stock, to pause a little, to check the next stage in the parade. He's been telling us what the day means for him.
Well, on the one hand, I feel extraordinarily proud to be representing the regiment and to be on the parade with my soldiers. I also feel I have to admit a degree of trepidation as well, wanting to ensure that the parade is really of the standard that our forebears in the regiment expect, and indeed that Her Majesty expects as well.
Stand fast!
The message that I give to my soldiers on parade is one that I'm going to try to adhere to myself as well, which is to enjoy it. What an extraordinary thing to be part of, especially this year in London and in front of Her Majesty the Queen.
And it's quite a thought, Ben, that on this very parade ground later this summer there'll be a rather different event taking place.
Yes, Hugh, I think on Monday the preparations for the Olympic beach volleyball commence here, and I understand that it'll be around 2,500 tons worth of sand laid here, and it will transform itself into an Olympic venue.
Officers, take post. Quick march.
The officers take post in front of the Guards again, and to complete the formation of the line they will take up their dressing once again. Colour will be taken to the front of the escort.
In open order. Left and right. Dress.
Mass band! One move to the right! Right! Turn! Mass bands! By the left! Quick march!
And now the magnificent sight of the mounted bands of the Household Cavalry. The drum horses, the only horses in the British Army to hold an officer's rank. They are both majors. Training them usually takes 3 to 4 years. They get used to the band, the weight of the drums, and being ridden using foot reins. And there's quite a strong wind out there. It's getting under the horses' tails, and they're being a little tricky to handle. We've got Mercury for the Blues and Royals and Achilles there for the Lifeguards, and he's been playing up a bit as Achilles. This was a sight that was missing from last year's Queen's Birthday Parade. The King's Troop had to miss the parade. They had a suspected case of strangles, and as a precaution didn't come here to Horse Guards. But in all their glory, this is now the 15th time they've been on parade, and they joined the ceremony at Horse Guards by request from the royal family. They first took part in 1998.
Commanding Officer Major Mark Edward took command of the King's Troop in August of 2011. It's his first time at the birthday parade as Commanding Officer. Marching to the Royal Artillery Slow March. March composed by the Duchess of Kent in the 19th century, the mother of Queen Victoria. The lead gun treated as the colour of the troop. Same respect paid to it as the Guards colour. Guns first saw service in the First World War. Each of the 6 13-pounder quick-fire guns dates back to 1904. Field Officer of the Sovereign's Escort, Major Simon Deverell of the Blues and Royals, who deployed to Afghanistan as C Squadron Second in Command in 2009-10 as part of the Household Cavalry Battle Group. Music changes to the regimental slow march of the Life Guards. Serafile Captain Anton Wallace, who's riding Connery today. The Life Guards originally raised in 1660. Charles II, while in exile, selected members of his bodyguard to establish a new regiment. The Life Guards, the senior regiment of the British Army. And in their distinctive dark tunics, the farriers, the Life Guards farrier with the black plume.
Field officer's trumpeter is Trumpet Major Bishop of the Blues and Royals. He's riding Yugoslavia, and they would always be on a grey horse so that the trumpeter could be seen in battle by their officers. And the horses actually recognise the music, and their ears will prick up as soon as the first few bars are played. Commanding officer there, Major Mark Edward. He's riding Lucy, who's a 17-2 hands high, light bay mare. All of the horses in the King's Troop are graded through according to colour, from A through to F, A being the lightest bay and F being the dark brown, almost black horses. Duke of Edinburgh salutes them as they go by, and each gun is pulled by 6 horses. The 3 on the near side are ridden and 3 on the off side are held in hand by the near side jockey, who's known as the driver. The front pair are the leaders. They're the taller, bolder, slightly more athletic horses. They act as the accelerator. And then the centre pair are slightly smaller. They add extra draft power. And the final pair of horses are the wheel horses. They act as the brakes of the team. They're usually quite thick set, as they're required to stop the 1.5 tons of gun behind them. The Household Cavalry going past in sitting trot. Not the most comfortable, but it looks much neater than rising trot.
Kettle drummers crossing their sticks, that is their form of salute for Her Majesty at this birthday parade. Led away by Captain Jason Griffiths, Director of Music of the Blues and Royals, in a successful first appearance here in this role at the Trooping the Colour. Director of Music will turn inwards as a signal to the field officer that the Household Cavalry back in position.
Guards! Royal salute! Present! Arms!
Garrison Sergeant Major Bill Mott moving towards the approach road. It is his ferocious attention to detail that's always evident at these great ceremonial events. So the field officer approaches the saluting base and will seek the Queen's permission to march off.
Your Majesty's Guards are ready to march off, ma'am.
Along the Mall, some of the royal guests that we saw earlier who've been watching from Horse Guards building are already on their way back to Buckingham Palace for that balcony appearance and the fly past. March off music, Northumbrian airs, arranged by Trevor Sharp. Majesty leading her personal troops from Horse Guards Parade on the way back to Buckingham Palace, where the day will continue for some of these guardsmen because they have other work to do. And joining us is the author, royal commentator and Daily Mail writer Robert Hardman. Robert, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Hugh.
What do you make of the parade today?
Well, I think it's as Ben was saying, there's great continuity here. I think today's is something of a breather and an extraordinary summer for the Queen. This is all very reassuringly familiar. There have been many extraordinary sights over the last few weeks, but now we have today and a week ahead, which is part of the. It's an anchor in the royal calendar. The Queen, as you say, she's attended all her birthday parades. Coming up next week, we have the gathering of all the Knights of the Garter at Windsor Castle on Monday, and then that leads into Royal Ascot. These are all events that she knows well and loves. So, actually, while these are still very big events, they're somewhat stress-free, shall we say, compared to some of the things we've seen in the last few days and weeks.
One of the features of this year's Diamond Jubilee, of course, has been the prominence of the Queen's grandchildren in the official events, not just here in the UK, but throughout the Commonwealth. And they've been paying their own personal tributes to the Queen, and they've been sharing their stories and memories with us.
What the Queen's managed to do is she's managed to bring the monarchy into the 21st century as best as she can. She's not had a blueprint, she's not had anyone telling her this is how to do it. She's very much done it her own way. And from my own point of view, I think that's just been hugely successful.
She's timeless. She is this figurehead that she's in touch with every generation just instinctively.
The world looks to her and follows her, and same as we do. I mean, we get actually the granny of her, but she's this person that for 60 years has been there for everyone, in wars, in terrorism and everything, and she's stood there and just taking it all in her stride.
Regardless of the time of day, wherever she turns up, she's still full of life, smiling, able to go into a room and bring the room to life. These are the things that at her age she shouldn't be doing, and yet she's carrying on and doing them, and not only in this country but all around the world.
The balance that she seems to get between her public role and actually the private role of being a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, somehow she's figured that balance out pretty effectively.
She's a good person to be leading the family, and she does it from the front, and we all have massive respect for her and, love her to bits.
She doesn't care for celebrity, and she really minds about, having a privacy in general. It's a very tricky line to draw between private and public and duty, and I think she's carved her own way completely.
My grandmother is the Queen. It's the Queen first, then grandmother. in public, you know, that is your job, that is your public figure, that is the way that you behave, that is the way that you act, and that's how you carry yourself out. And she does that immaculately. Behind closed doors, she will always be my grandmother. Obviously, there are times when she's the queen and she'll put her foot down. You know, during the games, if she's losing, then she'll put out the queen card.
Pulling out the Queen card, as related by Prince Harry, the view and the perspective of the grandchildren on the way that the Queen has fulfilled her duties over the past 60 years. So after this birthday parade today, the glass coach returning to Buckingham Palace, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. And a moment again to reflect after those voices, Robert Hardman, on the young royals and the way that they are managing to transform perceptions of the royal family.
Yes, they've really come into their own during this Jubilee. It's been a very demanding year for the Queen and the Duke, and it's been very helpful to have the younger generation, the grandchildren, coming out and helping the Queen on key occasions. Today, of course, but also through, as you mentioned, the first day of the big Jubilee tour. There was the Duchess of Cambridge at the Queen's side in Leicester when it was the Royal Maundy ceremony in York. There was Princess Beatrice there with the Queen there, and I think we're going to see more of this at these big occasions where there's a big royal turnout. It's nice to be able to fall back on three generations.
It's that tricky balance, isn't it? How do you maintain tradition? How do you underline heritage while modernising at the same time?
Yes, monarchy it's all about tradition and pomp on the surface, but of course it has to evolve. It has to remain relevant and accessible, and it is a very difficult juggling act, and it's been one of the great successes of this reign. And I think particularly as we saw with Prince Harry, for example, earlier this year, representing the Queen on her Jubilee tour overseas, he can bring a buzz to royal events, as can the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, which is crucial if you're reaching out to younger generations.
The scene in Green Park, King's Troop preparing to fire their 41-gun salute in honour of the Queen's birthday. Enormous crowds on the Mall today for this Queen's birthday parade of 2012, far bigger than we've seen for many years, and that of course reflects all the excitement of the Diamond Jubilee. The police, as they always do, controlling the flow of the crowd along the Mall and around the Queen Victoria Memorial on this bright sunny day, allowing them the best possible view of the balcony. That's what they all want to go, is to get close to the railings and close to the balcony itself. In Green Park, the 41-gun salute is underway. A 10-second interval between each round of fire. All of the individual firings counted and marked on leather pads in the traditional way. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh are the first to arrive. Prince of Wales getting ready to appear on the balcony too, along with Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, Duchess of Cornwall, Prince Harry, Duke of York, Countess of Wessex, Duke of York's daughters, and the 4 helicopters on the way. The Merlin, the first of a new generation of advanced medium support helicopters for the RAF. From RAF Benson, Oxfordshire, we have a Puma, battlefield helicopter. We have a Sea King from RAF Valley, which is Prince William's base, of course, and we have a Chinook, very familiar shape of the Chinook, really the workhorse of choice in Afghanistan, carrying troops and equipment. Now, they were meant to be followed by the Battle of Britain Memorial flight, but sadly, because of some windy conditions, that's not possible, so we will not be seeing the Lancaster, the Spitfire and the Hurricane. But we will be seeing the Great Hercules. Hercules, of course, used primarily for moving personnel and equipment in operational theatres. Captain today, Flight Lieutenant Sebastian Davey. The King Airs, advanced multi-engine pilot trainers. All of it being enjoyed by the royal family as they wait for the next group of aircraft, and it is the VC-10 from RAF Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire, flown by Flight Lieutenant Phil Burlingham. And the two Typhoons, the very agile and capable multi-role combat aircraft. Now we have the E-3D, an airborne command, control, surveillance and battle management platform. Squadron leader Ken Gunning is captain. And the Tornadoes, the Tornado GR4, providing vital intelligence on enemy ground activity. And this is the Voyager. This is the RAF's newest aircraft, the replacement for the long-serving and venerable VC-10 and TriStars. 60 meters long, a huge wingspan of 60 meters. It's the RAF's biggest ever aircraft. It is a spectacular plane. And the excitement for the crowd of seeing the streams of red, white and blue in the skies above. The Red Arrows, the Hawk T1s from RAF Scampton, Lincolnshire. Red Arrows team formed back in 1965. A fitting end to the Queen's birthday parade of 2012 in Diamond Jubilee year. So as the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh acknowledge the applause of the crowd, a final thought, Robert Hardman, from you on what today has meant.
Well, I think it's no coincidence that the Queen is wearing exactly the same primrose yellow ensemble she wore for the Great Royal Wedding last year. There was a great royal occasion, and today another great family occasion in the middle of this extraordinary summer.
And so the Queen's birthday parade is over, the 60th parade of the Queen's reign in the year of the Diamond Jubilee. It concludes the major formalities here in London, but other events and visits to mark the Jubilee will continue in the UK and throughout the Commonwealth in the months ahead. But from Colonel Ben Farrell, from Robert Hardman and Claire Balding, and all of us on the BBC team at Horse Guards, thank you for watching and goodbye.